Turns out the study does recommend changes to make the crosswalk safer. The report suggests removing it altogether, moving it to a different spot, or making some major changes to the one that's there now. This isn't the car trouble Crocker expected. The reports describe audio going silent. What would you like to say to people who are frustrated about that?
We absolutely understand your frustration.
The political messages from earlier are gone now. Instead of signs, people are holding candles. A woman is accused of stealing food from a Roswell restaurant kitchen and assaulting officers. Not enough samples were taken to discover that the soil here turned out to be a lot different than the soil deep beneath some of these hills.
It's a misdemeanor to privately sell a gun without getting a background check on the buyer, with the exception of selling to an immediate family member or law enforcement.
And it's really just to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them.
In the first year since that law went into effect on July 1st, 2019,
it's law.
Court records show no one has been charged for an illegal sale.
We spent a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of money trying to enact this law that's done absolutely nothing.
Cibola County Sheriff Tony Mace, who's also president of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, has publicly slammed the legislation since lawmakers first proposed it in the Roundhouse. Still, when she signed it into law, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham seemed confident that even sheriffs who opposed it would get on board.
They will enforce this law. They will do their job and duty.
But 1 year later,
we're not enforcing it.
the only law enforcement agency in the state we know of speaking publicly about actively enforcing it is the Albuquerque Police Department.
We want that message to get out to felons to just, if you tried, you could be getting a phone call from detectives.
APD has done 2 sting operations, acting as potential buyers and reaching out to private gun sellers to see if they'll require background checks. Out of 50 people, they say they warned roughly 10 about the law during the first operation, then just 2 or 3 during the second.
APD has seen firsthand what can happen when nothing stands in the way of a convicted felon going online to buy a gun from a private seller. That's how Devon Lyman got his hands on one before background checks were required. A gun he used to murder APD officer Daniel Webster after he was pulled over on a stolen motorcycle in 2015.
This isn't going to solve every instance of guns getting in the wrong hands, but if we can just prevent, 1 or 2 or half a dozen, it's definitely worth it. We want to keep these guns out of the wrong hands.
Private gun sale background checks in New Mexico are clearly on the rise, but it's unclear whether that's as a result of the new law. Here are the numbers. Green shows the number of background checks on private gun sales in New Mexico every month since the law went into effect, compared with that same month the year before in red. You can see the surge after the coronavirus outbreak hit the state, but the numbers were climbing even in the 8 months before that. Of course, those are the people following the rules. To do sting operations to catch people breaking the law is just not feasible, Sheriff Mace says.
I have limited resources, limited staff, limited manpower. That's not something that I can, that I'm going to focus a whole lot of time on is trying to bait people into a private transfer. There's a lot of other things that are going on that are more important that we could be dealing with.
We asked Democratic Representative Debbie Sariñana of Albuquerque about this. She sponsored the House version of the bill for background checks.
I believe it does save lives. I believe it depends on the department and the leadership in that department, how much this law is enforced.
Essentially, she's saying the law is only as good as the agencies enforcing it.
APD is doing a great job. They are working with us. I'm hoping other ones will come along.
APD says the department was going to move from the educational phase of giving out warnings into the enforcement phase when the pandemic hit. So that's on hold for now. On special assignment, Lysée Mitri, KRQE News 13.
It is a colorful map of Albuquerque. Unfortunately, these colors show rough streets all across the city with potholes and cracks. On special assignment, News 13's Lysée Mitri looks into why so many of our roads are in such bad shape and the huge price tag it would take to fix them all.
Okay, so hang on to your hats.
These are some of Albuquerque's roughest roads.
It's bumpy the entire trip through the neighborhood.
And Bob Oberer knows them well.
You're going to get your teeth jarred loose. It's kind of like a washboard.
He drives around for the Santa Fe Village Neighborhood Patrol, and he's lived here in the Taylor Ranch area for more than 30 years.
As you can see, all this is temporary repairs. And at one time they were very smooth. Oops, excuse me just a second. Hi.
Our tour is on hold for a minute as Ober checks in with a neighbor.
Well, you got my number. Just call if you need anything.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Got a lot of good neighbors here.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the bumps.
The cause of our bumpy ride? A web of cracks where the streets are splintering, like this right here, and this one, and this. The city knows the pavement here is in bad shape.
We do have areas on the west side where the soil conditions and the materials that we used as a test many years ago have in fact not proven to hold up.
As Municipal Development Director, Patrick Montoya oversees the department, which maintains more than 4,600 miles of Albuquerque roads. This map helps crews managing projects to improve roads keep track of the areas that need it most.
It's a tool that they just cannot live without.
Green means the pavement is in good condition. Yellow is fair, and shades of red, well, that's bad.
This is where we drove around with Ober. And if you take a look at the bigger picture, you can see lots of people in Albuquerque live in neighborhoods with streets in poor or very poor condition.
It means cracks and uneven surfaces that cause wear and tear on cars, an uncomfortably bumpy commute to and from work, and
then we have an image to portray. This is Albuquerque, and we want to make sure that we're conveying to the general public, and especially to those that visit us, that we maintain our infrastructures.
the biggest challenge for more green here is finding more of this green here. Montoya says his department spends roughly $40 million a year on road improvements. To fix all this all at once, he says it would cost close to $1 billion.
You can see that our needs are far greater than the amount of money that we generate on a yearly basis. So we're always playing catch up, just trying to make things work as best we can.
He says a lot of the money the city uses comes from a 1/4-cent gross receipts tax. That's a quarter for every $100 you spend. But that tax is set to disappear next year unless voters renew it on Election Day in 2 weeks. And the city says without it, you'll see a lot more of this.
I've got to say the city's got one heck of a job.
On special assignment, Lysée Mitri, KRQE News 13.
The city says the tax up for renewal on the ballot generates about $19 million a year for those road improvements. To see that ballot question or to check out the city's road condition map, go to alwaysonkrqe.com.
A lot of people are still hurt by this.
The building is empty.
People invested money and everything else into this school.
A few signs left behind give a glimpse into why this spot was once a source of excitement and hope in this Southeast Albuquerque neighborhood.
We were like, wow, a prep school, that's kind of cool.
The idea was to open up a public charter school in the International District, giving low-income and minority students a new educational option.
The school founders rallied support from the community, got approval and funding from the state. Then after just one school year, they packed up and left.
Altura Preparatory School moved from this strip mall near San Pedro and Catherine to a much wealthier neighborhood in the Heights.
That's unacceptable. We tried to support that school as much as possible.
Tony Johnson volunteers and works in the community. He thought Altura Prep would be a bright spot in an area challenged by poverty and crime.
It was something different in the community. You know, it's not, just like opening a liquor store or another smoke shop. This was something that was going to come in and enhance our children.
It's really important that they have all the tools they need.
That's Lisa Hines and Megan Hindman, co-founders and directors of Altura Preparatory School. In 2017, they sought approval from the Public Education Commission to start the state-authorized charter school. Here's Commission Chair Patricia Gibson.
The applicant indicated that they would be locating in the International District, and they would be the only primary school of choice in the area.
That's the first thing they pointed to when asked what would set them apart from the dozens of charter schools already in Albuquerque, according to meeting transcripts. We think all kids should be able to live near a school that does what they need it to do for them and that they can get to easily, Hinman told the commission in 2017. Their application described efforts to build trust with people in the International District.
The school presented itself as more of that community school and servicing the community, which goes beyond just the instructional hours.
But things didn't exactly go according to plan.
Were they good community partners?
In that respect, no. They really, they're not.
Altura Prep gained overwhelming support from the International District. One resident excited about the addition to the neighborhood donated $5,000. And the landlord of this space near Wilson Park invested $500,000 to fix it up for the new school. Then, despite a 5-year lease, Altura Prep moved last summer, spending just one school year here.
And it's public monies as well. So if there's a compensation that has to be made as a result of a breakage of a lease, we have to be good stewards of public money.
She says it resulted in an $18,000 settlement to the landlord, and the donor of the $5,000, so disappointed the school moved to a, quote, wealthy community, asked for the money back. The school agreed.
It's a disservice to our community.
From here, it takes about 25 minutes to drive up to the Northeast Heights near Alameda in Wyoming. That's where you'll find Altura Preparatory School's new neighborhood, something the directors, Hinman and Hines, would not talk about on camera. A short email response to multiple interview requests states the school moved because of, quote, growth needs, and claimed this new place was the only property that, quote, checked all the boxes.
One parent told us off camera she's from the International District and she's glad the school moved here, that it's safer. So is the school still making an impact in Southeast Albuquerque?
Well, this school's directors wouldn't say. They ignored it over and over again when we asked how many students from the International District are enrolled. We do know they have a bus for students in the International District. We saw about 8 students use it one day last week. That's out of the 90 students enrolled at Altura, according to the state's online charter school directory.
And they was concerned that they use the system to their advantage. If they got the funding from the state for a charter school to be in that area and they decide to leave, why should the funding go with them?
When the school told the state about its move last summer, the Public Education Commission chair said without a doubt, it's a broken promise. When we spoke to her last week, she called it unfortunate.
But at the end of the day, there is nothing that we can legally do to stop the move. We don't have any legal authority to do that.
She says legally, the school can move anywhere within the Albuquerque School District boundaries, and the commission can't do a thing about it. It brings little comfort to those concerned in this community. It does nothing to fill the void. On special assignment, Lysée Mitri, KRQE News 13.
New Mexico's healthcare system is dealing with a limited statewide stock of medical supplies. We start with breaking news. A man was hospitalized after being shot by police in Southeast Albuquerque. The stand will also have a dine-in area, but Skarsgård says he will monitor the state's health order before offering those dine-in services. A woman is accused of stealing food from a Roswell restaurant kitchen and assaulting officers. California's governor has declared a state of emergency as hundreds of wildfires burn throughout the state. We also asked the governor about her interest in a possible cabinet position if Joe Biden were to win the presidency. We've posted the full interview on alwaysonkrqe.com. People are getting their first look at the damage today since a bosque fire broke out. News 13's Sarah Yingling is live in Belen, where she talked to some of those homeowners now picking up the pieces. Sarah, a new video series highlights the personal stories of New Mexicans who have suffered from COVID-19.